say I'm from Hokianga in Te Arawa, and that's enough. And what I wanted to take you back to is that kōrero with Jack and him around voyaging, and then talk about how a lot of these science fits into that voyaging kōrero that we've been talking about. So for Hokianga, there's a kōrero in Hokianga from our Uncle Pat that takes us back about 4 or 5 generations before Kupe to a brilliant navigator called Tangia. And Tangia lived around the time of, I think Tangia was from Tahiti, and he had his mate, a rival sailor around on the oceans at that time called Karika from Samoa. So I understand anyway. So 4 generations, 5 generations before Kupe, we had Tangia, who was sent out, our uncle says, from the kaumātua in Tahiti. They sent him out to find out which islands were inhabited and which ones were empty. And so he set sail. He would have had a companion waka, but I don't know what the waka was. But anyway, the story was he ended up coming down. He must have went right. He didn't come down the west coast because he didn't come into Hokianga. That I know, because we don't have any kōrero for him there. But on the east coast, they have kōrero. For Tangia, they have carvings in some of their whare. And apparently, and this is recorded up in from his kaumātua up in Tahiti, that he went to the far south, and on his return, reported to his elders in Tahiti to say there was no great landmass to the south. But what they did find was white coral floating in the sea that was cold to the touch. Pretty cool, eh? No word for icebergs. But then from Tangia, you come 4 or 5 generations later, we get to Kupenuku. So that's our name for that tupuna Kupe. We called him Kupenuku. And so there was Kupe, and he brought the Matahaurua waka down, right? There are lots of stories around Kupenuku when he arrived. But Kupenuku, Machu, Maya, Mahu, and then Nuku Tawhiti. And Nuku Tawhiti brought the Matahaurua back after it was re-adds to carry more people down. And they renamed it Ngā Toki Matawhaurua. Ngā Toki Matawhaurua. And the companion waka was the Mamari, captained by Ruanui. And so they came into the Hokianga harbour, but the Hokianga harbour was actually, by that time was called the Hokianga Nui Akupe. Because I forgot to say that when Kupe came down, he called that harbour Te Punai Te Ao Marama, the spring in the land of light. That's our story. Eh? And it was because of the light when they came down here that was different to when they were up in the Pacific, on the equator, that after the sunset, there was still light, a lot of light. Nah. And then in the morning, before sunrise, you could see everything, lots of light around. And I think it was from there that they started to compose these pūrākau around Maui slowing the sun down, which is cool, eh? Because that's what you did. Eh? And you create a story that is so fantastic and unbelievable that it will last for generations. Yeah? And so we go back, when we want to retract and find answers to things, we go back to these pūrākau, eh? And one of those pūrākau is Maui slowing down the sun, which explains to the people back up in the equator that, hey, there's a lot of light down there. Maui was down there giving the sun a bashing and slowing him down. Say, kaua te no, tere tō haere ki runga te mata o te whenua. And then there's another one, also around Maui. You know, we've got these stories about fishing up the North Island. Eh? So the fish hook that Maui used is actually the matawa Maui, or the tail of Scorpio. And it's a waka navigation story, actually. Is Jack still here? Anyway, how they explain it to us, the waka navigators, is that when you're up in the Pacific and you're looking to the south, right, down this way, and you wait for that matawa Maui to sit on the horizon, and they say if you sail down there, Maui's fish hook there, that's where you'll find his fish. And we had some clever people that Oki knows who actually pinpointed that setting of that matawa Maui, the tail of Scorpio, right on top of Pencarrow Head in Wellington, te upoko o te ika. So you see how we go back to our pūrākau to actually explain some of the things. So what I've done is I've thrown some names up on there so I don't forget some of the kōrero. Because I was brought up in a whare wānanga where we were taught the old oral histories in the dark. And so we weren't allowed to record or write anything for many, many years. Long story short, that was between 1970 and 78. And these were the remnants of the students who were taught through the old whare wānanga that was brought down on the waka with Nuku Tawhiti in them. So when Nuku Tawhiti and Ruanui set up those whare wānanga, they passed all these oral histories on. Okay? And so I was the recipient of that for, by default, mind you. I wasn't selected. I had to drive my dad around because he couldn't drive at night. And that's how I ended up in the wānanga as an 18-year-old for eight years. And the reason why I've got those kupu up there is to make sure that I can track back into that kōrero. So what you see behind me is when those great navigators like Jack Thatcher and Hoturo and them get the waka to land, the scientists took over. And in our case in Hokianga, all the scientists were on the Māmari. Because there must have been something must have happened. Tēnā pēr koutou e kipa mai mōhiona, something must have happened with ngā toki mata whaurua. I don't know the story, but it was extremely tapu. And the people who had the science about growing kai and putting in a system that will help those survivors of that waka, or the people from that waka to survive for the next 1,000 years, that mahi was noa, and it could not be mixed with the tapu navigation whakaaro. So they all came down on the Māmari. Ne? So when the Māmari and ngā toki mata whaurua came ashore, this is what they developed. So we got two experts in the front row here that could tell you more about these hākari than I could. I think this one's 1847 Busby's time, maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What you see was a kai platform where people used to bring kai in, and each hapu or whānau e manuka were allocated one of those squares to put their kai in, filled up those hākari. Now, there are some records of some of those hākari being 2 miles long. Pretty mean, eh? That's the Maori economy back in the day. And everything on that hākari was gathered or planted and grown to the manamataka. The science of survival. That's what I want to talk about. Yeah, cool. Hey, where's my driver? Hey, driver, come back over here. Hey, I hope I don't crash it.
Well, can I just,
yeah.
I've often wondered whether the expression he whenua rangatira,
Yeah.
which is then he whakapūtanga o te rangatira,
Yeah.
this is what they had in mind.
That's what they had in mind.
Whenua rangatira.
The economy of our people. And it wasn't just up north here, all the way down the line. There are different types of these hākari where people will bring their kai. So if for Waima, for example, we would have had tuna, kumara, peru, and before dock, probably wood pigeons. Eh? And so if you went over to Ngāti Wai, and Ngāti Kuta Patukeha, it would have been kaimona, eh? So you all brought those kai together, eh? And you put it onto this hākari to celebrate. So real good indication of the strength of the Māori economy back in the day. Every hapu could do that. Oh, probably a number of hapu, eh? Make those ones that big, yeah.
My sense is that every space is one hapu.
Wow, yeah.
That's 380 hapu provided.
380 hapu providing that kai. And it's fascinating that some of the records, they say that there were kete kumara and kete riwai that were too numerous to count. Imagine that, eh? And so this is what has been destroyed because we forgot to keep following our sciences, and we got dragged into the city to earn money. Hey, truck driver. Hey. Oh, never mind, truck driver, when you finish, can you come back and drive? Yeah, get another license. So what I'm going to do is that all this kōrero and the ability to grow kai was based on our pūrākau and on our whakapapa. So what I'm going to do now is switch over to our tūpuna called Wainui Ātea. And in the time of Wainui Ātea, before Papa Tuanuku, everything was water. He wai katoa te ao. So that's our kōrero. And so from Wainui Ātea, we get moana nui, moana roa, the long ocean, more big ocean, the long ocean, moana hakere, the gloomy ocean, moana tapoko, the turbulent ocean, which is where we get the moana tāpoko poko a tāwhaki, the Tasman Sea. Ne. And then there's a, ware ke si, he taonga te ware. Ne. There's another tamariki in there, and then we get moana tū ki te wao, and those are our inland lakes. And then we get moana tū ki te repo, and those were our swamplands. And it's moana tū ki te repo that's been killed. Over 90% of our swamplands have been drained and they're all dead. And that is the cause of the problems that we're having in the oceans. Because to explain it, see, I don't have science to explain it. What I've got is our Maori science called a pūrākau. So if we go back to the Battle of Te Pairangi, the battle between, when they were fighting over the separation of the parents of Rangi and Papa, Tāne and Tangaro fought. And Tāne ate some of Tangaro's children. And Tangaro promised that forever and a day, he's going to send his waters up. And he's going to gouge away at Papa Tuanuku, and he's going to drag Tāne's children into the sea and drown them. So who stood in between them? Moana tū ki te repo. So what she was there for was to capture all that turbulence, that fighting between Tangaro and Tāne and all that erosion, holding all those waters into those swamplands with all that kai in those swamplands. Interestingly enough, and then during a drought, acted like a big, huge wet sponge. So ka maroke te rangi, and then they'll press down and then we'll push those waters out and filter back into our waterways. You have a look at some of our waterways now, dust bowls. There. So this is going back to understanding of growing things like that. You need to have your pūrākau with you. And so these are the things that we teach our tamariki now. Ne? The science from a Maori worldview. So that's Wainui Ātea. So I've got under the Wainui Ātea, because we're talking about water, we have pipi and wawai. Pipi and wawai. And this is our whakapapati water, because from a Maori worldview, we are part of that environment. So we understand our involvement in an environment by understanding that we are connected. Ne? Tuia ki te rangi, tuia ki te whenua, tuia ki te moana, e rongo te pō, e rongo te ao. So we are joined to the ocean, to the tohu o te rangi, tohu o te whenua, and e rongo te pō, e rongo te ao is a reminder to us to, when we're working in environmental stuff, to keep everything in balance. Now, because pō represents te heke wahine, and te ao is te rerenga tāne. And so when we teach our tamariki, these kinds of things remind them to keep things in balance, and everything's just so out of balance, out of kilter now, he ua te mai. So I'm going back to pipi and wawai. We'll get to growing kai in a minute. So pipi and wawai come off tūpuna whakatau ānuku and whakatau ārangi. And pipi is the punawai. Ne? And wawai is the deep water aquifer. That's how I imagine it to be. And these are the mātāmua of all our whakapapatu ota. And then following them, we have, the other word for pipi that punawai was te manawa o te whenua e kore e mimiti. Te manawa o te whenua. And so we come down below pipi and wawai, we get taitua and taiaro. And these two are the rivers and streams that we know of. Ne? Ka taka mai ke hā mui mui rāwa ko ue papatangaroa. And hā mui mui and ue papatangaroa are freshwater aquifers under the sea. And there are places along the coast, the east coast, where the locals know where these places are, where they can go out into the sea and get fresh water. But also they're really good fishing spots, and so they keep them secret, and good on them, because you don't want the archaeologists going down there digging away, down there checking to see what's down there. So that's ue papatangaroa. And then they form into, what's that, evaporation or something, into ue pohewa and tautini. And they form two kinds of kapua te maru o te rangi and maroro tua uriuri te awha. And it's from maroro tua uriuri te awha that we get ua, rain. And he tapu te ua. It was really he tapu te ua. Because when we were growing up, the old people used to capture the ua in these special containers, glass containers that never had any kai. And they didn't use them for kai or anything, but they used them for tohi mokopuna, christening pure and rongoa, but never to eat, eh? And it's not until, you still see there's some people still living by it. Kia ora, thank you for keeping that alive. And there's still people who are doing that, né? And it's not until that ua gets infused, that's a nice word, eh? I learned that from Bobby. It's because te kupu Maori mo tēnā ko te whakananu, ne whakananua. Kia whakananua rāno taua wai ki te, taua ua ki te mauri o papatuanuku me tāne te wai ora, ka tahi ona ka huri hei wai. So it's not until it gets infused with the mauri o papatuanuku and tāne te wai ora that it then turns into wai when you can use it. Not before. Ne? So these are some of the tikanga and whakapapa stuff that's handed down to those scientists who came on those waka. They would have come in with that mātauranga, eh? And these were interesting people, you know. They could go into an environment and quickly assess where they are. By having a look at tohu o te rangi, which we'll talk about very quickly, tohu o te whenua and tohu o te moana. So in tohu o te rangi, you got kōrero, let's start with Matariki, right? The start of the new year, I get asked to talk about Matariki. How much time do you need? They say, I said, about 10 seconds. Because I don't know anything about Matariki. The whetū we use up in Hokianga is puanga, or puanga rua to us. Puanga kairau te taranaki. Yeah? Also kawarau āmaki, out here they use puanga as well, as the start and a marker for their new year. Now, Tainui, Kāwhia, Raglan, down that way, they use rehua or rerehu, I think is the kupue, rerehu setting in the west. It's exactly the same time as puanga rising in the east. But because you can't see that side, you use another star marker. What's the importance of that, though? It's a new year. The interesting thing about the start of a year is that you have to close off the old year. And the old people will tell us that you don't take things from the old year into the new year. Close them off, shut them down, put them on the outgoing tide and send them away before you start your new year celebrations. And the things that are missing from our Matariki celebrations in these days is that people are forgetting to shut down the old year. Hey. So there's a special ceremony, shut down the old year, tukuna ma te taitimu e kawe te ripo te moana, and then you start your new year. Yeah. Marama? So just remember that when we're celebrating. Don't go out celebrating when you haven't shut things down there. Otherwise, you're just dragging all that raru into the new year, mau taima. Oh, so now that you're there, see, we're going to jump over there because Oki's put it up there. So this is what I was taught in the whare wānanga. This is a poroporoaki that captures the different parts of the... So haere ia puihihirere, pūrere ahu aua hinui au hiroa, te manu i te rā, haere te puatawhiwhi o tautoru. Haere ia matiti kura, matiti hana, matiti muramura, matiti kaiwai, matiti raurehu, matiti rau tapata, matiti rau angina, te ata ura, te ata i toea. So those matiti are actually the separations of our summer months. We have 8 phases to summer. Pretty different to what they teach in schools, eh? So matiti kura, the first phase of summer is when those small berries in the ngahere ripen. Eh? So matiti kura. And then you go to matiti hana. We're in matiti hana now, is when you see the pua wānanga, pua reinga, hea te kupu pākea mo tēnā. That's the trouble with having to switch to these railway. Clematis. When you see the clematis flowering. But all those white flowers flower in the matiti hana phase of summer. The end of your matiti hana phase is when you see the pohutukawa tops turning white. Ka hana ngā pohutukawa, yeah, that's the end of the matiti hana phase, and then we switch into the phase called matiti muramura. And matiti muramura is when the pohutukawa and the northern rata flower, ka muramura katoa te ngahere. And it's different timing up north and different to other places. So the northern ones come in early, I think. And that's why trying to understand maramataka and taking one maramataka, one size fits all, never going to work. Because he rereke te maramataka o tēnā, o tēnā, o tēnā. What's the other one we got up there? Oh, hang on. So we got the... we'll leave the te atai toe and the pūwe, te atai toe. Have I put pūwe with up? Yeah. I'm neat, all right? That te ata ura and te atai toe are actually atmospheric conditions under which those matiti survive. So, and then you got a different whare, and like te pūwewera, you know that's hot, eh? And te pū mana mahana is the kāinga. So those will be those matiti kaiwai and the matiti muramura. So they're interesting stuff there. So the matiti kaiwai phase of summer actually is when the ground opens up. You see the maroke te whenua, ka katakata te whenua, ka hiaka ki te wai, ko te matiti kaiwai tēnā. Yeah. So our name up north here, I te nōtanei. Tomato ingoa for that January phase is te waru I kataina e rehua. Te waru I kataina e rehua. So it's the 8th month, and the katakata is when the ground opens up, e katakata ana te whenua, and rehua is the atua for that time of the year. The matiti muramura phase and the matiti kaiwai. So rehua is a huge whetū, that one that tainui use, and when it rises up in the face of the sun, it triggers the flowering of the pohutukawa and the northern rata. Pretty cool, eh? And this is how we start talking about how things are connected. And then at the time of the flowering of those trees, fish run in certain areas. And those were the tohu. So if you're nowhere near the sea and you saw those things flowering, you know, ke te tere, te kanai, ke te tere, te kahawai, those sorts of things. So that's how you connect the things up, so you understand. What have we got up? Ooh. Oh, and the takurua. Where's that takurua?
Go back.
There. That kahui takurua. So these are the separate phases of our winter. Wero I te ninihi, wero I te kōkota, wero I te whakataka pungarehu is actually the actual name for it. And te whakataka pungarehu is a time when during the June, you know, when you got to after you harvest all your kei, after whānui rise, you harvest all your kei, your pātaka are full, your storage houses are full. Then you sit down and wānanga about what are you going to do, plan for the next year. And those were the months of Pipiri and Hongongwe that we've just come through, up until about mid-August. And so during those wānanga, ka tahuna ngāhi. So you had fires burning, or a couple of months of fires. And then what they do, where you get that whakataka pungarehu, is around about this time, or a couple of weeks earlier, you would have got all those ashes that were burnt right through those 2 months from those fires, and you returned them to the soil, turned them into the gardens. Yeah? And I think that's what some of these archaeologists are finding. Eh? So that's from te whakataka pungarehu. That was a practice. Yeah? And so you get these kōrero, but some clever fellow must have been from Bobby's lot over in Miti Miti. They turned it into a poroporo aki. Wero i te whakataka I pungarehu ai o koutou tinana. E takurua auru, takurua ai o takurua ngana. So, and that refers to the different positions of takuru in the sky. Eh? So we're going back to ngā tohu o te rangi. Oh, I'm getting tired now because I've got to hurry up. So what's the next one? So this is also from the whare wānanga, a different, this kōrero, we can actually tell the year when Nukutawhiti on Ngā Toki Mata Whaurua and Ruanui on Māmari were sailing down here, because they came down during a death of the star. Yep. What was it? Supernova. During the time of a supernova. And this one goes, ka toa mere mere tū ahi ahi ka kite a ke ngā whetu. Whetu ao, whetu marama, mere mere tū ahi ahi pare a rau te whetu pauaru. Koe ai kō pare i tōna matenga he taua. Tū mata kōkiri haere ai, a mata kōkiri haere a pui hirere, pūrere ahu, auahi nui auahi roa, te manu I te rā, haere I te puatawhiwhi o tautoru, heke tianga rangi tū ha, haere ki te tātai aro rangi. So that's my version. But those, what you got there is that, so tū mata kōkiri and mata kōkiri, those were the meteors. Puihi hirere, pūrere hau auahi nui, auahi roa. Auahi roa is Halley's Comet. And then all these other ones. So we got the references to all those the meteors and comets and all those other things passed down through this system of the Poroporaki. And there are heaps of these. We only put 2 up, because otherwise you might get too clever. Can't have it. And so, what the, can you guys see this? He played it a bit too fast. But, yeah. So, today is the Tangaro Kiokio Day of the Maramataka. Yeah. And the tohu for Tangaro Kiokio in the sea is Pātiki in the daylight, flounder in the daylight. I don't know, can you see from down the back there? Every time we show this, all the Maoris say, hey, where's that? It's all right, we've edited just before it shows you where it is, it gets edited. But you see that clearly, eh? And now all people knew this. And so when I was at the university with Mike Walker, I told them about this. And so they didn't believe me, so we went out and filmed it. February, March, April, they came out right on the Tangaro Kiokio Day. So this is how our old people tuned into to their environment, eh? How they understood their environment. How do you get there? No, we're not going to mutu. We're going to finish tonight, midnight. Right? Oh, Baba. Okay, I'll just have to talk about the rest, because there was some footage that we couldn't play off my hard drive. The other tohu o te whenua for the Tangaro Kiokio Day is rats in the daylight. This fellow at the front here, Bobby. So to prove my point to the School of Biological Sciences at Auckland University that these things did actually happen, I went out to catch these rats on Tangaro Kyokyo Day. And I used Bobby's place as the laboratory. And he said, we got no rats here. Cats and dogs, no rats here. And then I said, bro, these rats don't give a stuff about cats and dogs. So anyway, I'd been away from home for so long, so I had to ring back to Hokianga, because they've always lived the Maramataka. Ne? So I rang Waiato ki a rate, kei hea Tangaro Kyokyo. So I asked them where Tangaro Kyokyo was. They gave me the date. So we set the cameras up 5 days before Tangaro Kyokyo and left them in 5 days after Tangaro Kyokyo. So all the way up to Tangaro Kyokyo, we get cats, birds, a hedgehog, more birds, and lots of false triggers. Then right on Tangaro Kyokyo, this big rat comes out. And I showed Bobby, and he nearly died. But the interesting thing that after that, Papu, 5 days after that, nothing. Right on Tangaro Kyokyo, these rats come out. And then Mike and them, which fair enough, Mike Walker and them was said, yeah, but that's only one example. Which is fair enough, And so what we did, we set up 5 cameras. right down the Manukau, all down the Manukau, South Auckland there. And they all hit on Tangaro Kyokyo. But one of them was interesting when we set up at this lady's house. She said, no, I got no rats here. I had these traps out. I've had these traps out for months and haven't caught any, and the dogs haven't caught any. And I said, lady, you are on a rat trail, like Bobby's. There's a beautiful rat trail back of his house. If you know how to recognize these trails, you can pick them up. And this lady was on a rat trail. I said, lady, these rats do not go away. I said, what's happened? So I set the camera up out there, Tania's place, and we got over 300 hits. And she nearly died. She sold the house. She did. Yeah. I don't think she mentioned about being on a rat trail, so she probably got what she wanted. But, these things we recognized when we were growing up. Yamato e haere ana ki te hi tuna, and they see the rats, Tangaro Kyokyo. Rats are out all the time. So how do you know it's Tangaro Kyokyo and not just a rat going for a kai somewhere? It's te āhua o tā rātou tū. So when they come and see you, they'll look up at you and say, hey, who are you? They do not, on most days they just disappear, not on a Tangaro Kyokyo day. And that's how you know you're in Tangaro Kyokyo. So we're using the fish down in the morning. We use the rats to tell us where we are. The other tohu for the kaunga te wai must be time up. Is it Papu? You're already time up. Well, you have to come back next week for the second version. But one of the other key things we use in how to tune into the environment is the flowering of the different plants. And so one of the key flowering plants we watch for every year is the kohurangi. The Brachyglottis kirkiae for you clever people. And when the kohurangi flowers, it tells you that you can go and plant your frost-sensitive crops. And it used to flower sort of end of August, or mid-August. The last 4 years it's been flowering in the first week of July. And when it does that, the old people talk about a double cropping season. For those of you who don't know a double cropping season, it means that you can grow your kai, harvest it and grow again. And that means that the radu ahead, when it does that. And that helps you to get more and more kai gathered in so that you can withstand all the harsh times that will be coming up. And the kohurangi is the indicator for that. I'll just finish off on this note about what we're teaching our tamariki is to go back and understand all their pūrākau, because that's where our science lies. And so we got some young kids, actually today they're in a workshop learning how to operate, or they got some special test kits that they help to design along with the Auckland University's engineering school. Okay, and so how they use these water testing kits, they need to understand the whole environment around where they're testing. So that if they go into a waterway, they need to understand the history of that waterway, the hapu, whakapapa of that waterway. They need to understand there are over 700 names for the different winds. Pretty cool, eh? 200 different names for rain, 150 for kohu, about the same number for clouds, and about 300 for snow. So that helps them to tune into an environment. Yeah. And some of the things about winds, there's the hauruhi, haungenge, and the haumangere. Those are winds that can't move a waka. Eh? And then you get the hau pāpākina that goes that, and then you get the hau pārua that goes that way. Then you get that hau that goes around your feet. You've been in one of those? Lifts the leaves up? Yeah? And some nodding their heads. You've been in those winds? Guess what the name is? Haututu. Yeah. So that's one of Tawhiri Mate's children, eh? So when we talk about Tawhiri Mate, we're talking about those low winds. But Tawhiri Mate also had a younger brother, Tawhirirangi. And Tawhirirangi's job was to look after the jet streams. And so when I was up at the university wasting my time, this professor asked me, how did your ancestors know there was a jet stream? They had no instruments to measure it. And I said, yes, they did. It was called the kuaka. And you could see the color drain from his face. But what the kuaka does, the one with the long, several with those long, I don't know, they got names for it up in Te Hapua. But the kaumātua up in Te Hapua say that these ones go up in there and they take these other birds with them. And they talk about having two jobs. The first job is to see who's strong enough to fly home, and if they're not strong, they'll leave them behind. But its second job was to detect the change in the jet stream. And when the jet stream turned and was favorable for them to go home, one call went out and they'd all go, thousands and thousands of them. And I looked at this guy and I said, you're the only silly buggers who'd fly for 8.5 days into a headwind, eh? But this is how our tupuna used and understood their environment so well. So we had this water quality, I'll finish over here, Bobby, the water quality testing kit that Waikea brought out to Otara to teach some of our kids how to test the Otara Creek. I walk in late to the hui, and they said, hey, is there a mātauranga Maori around water quality testing? I said, yeah, actually there is. We'll take them out into the car park. Take the kids out in the car park. Don't need to go down to the creek. So we walk into the car park and I said to the kids, what do you hear? And they said, oh, nothing. I said, well, that water's no good. Go back inside. And then I said, oh, well, hang on. What should we be hearing this time of the year? And I know you can't answer it. I'll tell you what it is. It's the kōtare. This time of the year, it's feeding its babies, and no mother brings up their babies where there's no supermarket. And if you don't hear them over here, that water's no good. Easy, eh? And that's how we use that mātauranga, by using and tuning into the environment. Né? And so that's enough. Part 2 next week. Yeah. And just to talk about briefly, Bobby's allowed me to, we are designing these dials that got the Gregorian calendar in the middle, so you can dial it up. So Rākau Nui, if you set it on 15th and put 15 onto Rākau Nui, all the other days will line up. So when we run workshops, we get kids in the whānau to tune into that. But then we have all this information behind each one of these days there. Hey. And so what we understand for these maramataka, we understand that they are energies. So they're high energy days. Ōturu, Rākau Nui, Rākau Mātohi, high energy, low energy, Mutawhenua, Whiro and Tīrea. And then we have those multiple energy days like we're in today. And that's why I'm allowed to talk for a bit longer. Because the Tangaroa days, multiple energies. And typical days for Tangaroa, winds aren't strong, but they're nice. They don't have but the cloudy skies, pūkohua uta, ua mō nehu nehu usually. And this is typical of a Tangaroa day. Pretty cool. And on the other side, on these tamatea days, unpredictable. And all our calendars tell us that on those days, prepare for the unexpected. Ne? And it's like that, because one day I went to go get into the car and I stopped. I went back to get my umbrella. The sun was shining. Went back into the car and my young fellow looks at me. I said, tamatea. Oh, yeah. So we went to work. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sun was shining, rain pelted down. One fellow at the table with an umbrella. Pretty cool, eh? So that's what these calendars can teach us.
That's in the Gregorian.
Yeah. So we understand that there are these energy flows within the environment, and we can detect them by using our maramataka. Yeah? And so we're also using it with sports, multi-sports people. On the Tangaroa days, they train on the water, in the water, near the water. The tamatea days, when they want to be challenged, they go out up into the hills, and they also use te ngahere. And then on those low energy days, they do, who goes to the gym? Few fit fellas here. Passive recovery, whatever that means. So those are those low energy days. And then the kore days, they use active recovery. So there are a lot, and these are Olympians training this way. Eh? And so the new way for understanding the maramataka is we're now using it to track the incidence of suicides. So when my mate asked me, can the maramataka track the incidence of suicide? I said yes. I said on the high energy days, you'll get these high numbers, the Tangaroa days, and also on the tamatea days, but the high numbers will be on the whiro, mutuwhenua whiro, low energy days. And I said, if you get a whole year's data, August will be your highest month. That's before he got the data from the coroner's office. So he got 10 years of data and they all lined up. What this tells us is that we can intervene positively, because we know where these danger periods are. And so that's where we're working in that. Funny, come to grow kai and you end up in mental health. On Wednesday, I was asked by Auckland Transport, because they have a high incidence of accidents and deaths, I said the maramataka can track, and they didn't, the patterns. And I said, when you can track a pattern, you can actually intervene before those things happen. Yeah? So I did the exercise with them, took about 4 hours, got through it, got all the data, 4 years data, and there was a clear pattern around those high energy days. So now they are planning how they can intervene positively, like maybe giving free public transport or whatever to get people out of their cars and in those days. Interestingly, the low energy days, whiro, nothing. Pretty cool, eh? Yeah, anyway, that's me. So next version, next week? Same time, same place? And, kia ora mai tātou.